Number 1. In the desert plateau of Egypt, where heat shimmers above ancient limestone and horizons dissolve into golden haze, stands a structure so familiar that its mystery is often overlooked: the Great Pyramid of Giza. It is perhaps the most studied building in human history, and perhaps the most unsettling. Officially, it was constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu approximately 4,500 years ago. Millions of stone blocks, decades of labor, an extraordinary state project. That explanation addresses who built it. It does not fully explain what they achieved. The pyramid originally rose to nearly 147 meters. Its base covers enormous acreage. Its alignment with true north is astonishingly accurate. The margins of error are so small that modern surveyors continue discussing the precision involved. Read that sentence again. A structure thousands of years old achieves measurements still impressive by contemporary standards. The arithmetic is not subtle. The builders possess no GPS, no lasers, no computers, no modern engineering software, yet the geometry remains extraordinary. Then the anomalies accumulate. Massive granite blocks transported from distant quarries, internal chambers arranged with remarkable precision, passages aligned according to carefully calculated angles, construction tolerances that continue attracting attention from engineers. The accepted explanation invokes skilled labor, sophisticated organization, practical mathematics, and generations of accumulated knowledge, all reasonable, all supported by evidence. Yet a gap remains. Not a gap proving impossible theories, a gap between what ancient people are often imagined to have been and what this structure demonstrates they actually accomplished. The Great Pyramid forces a confrontation with human capability itself, because every stone presents the same challenge. Not who built it, humans built it. The evidence overwhelmingly supports that. The deeper question is how much knowledge has been lost between then and now. How many techniques disappeared? How many methods vanished with their creators? How much sophistication has simply slipped beyond recovery? The implications are difficult to ignore. If the pyramid represents the surviving peak of a much larger intellectual landscape, then history may resemble a shattered statue with only fragments remaining. The accepted timeline has answers. The monument continues asking questions, and that is why it remains at the top of this list. Not because it is the oldest, not because it is the largest, but because it occupies a unique position between certainty and mystery. The Great Pyramid still rises from the desert. The chambers remain within. The stones remain aligned, and after thousands of years, the question is no longer whether ancient humanity was capable of greatness. The question is whether we have underestimated that greatness from the very beginning. Across mountains, deserts, oceans, forests, islands, and underground worlds, these structures share a common trait. They endure. Civilizations disappeared. Languages faded. Beliefs transformed. Empires collapsed. Yet the stone remains. Each monument exists as a contradiction carved into the landscape, a reminder that the past is rarely as simple as the timelines drawn to contain it. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not hidden inside the structures themselves. Perhaps it lies within our assumptions. Because every generation inherits a story about where humanity came from, and every so often, a monument emerges from the earth and quietly suggests that the story is incomplete. The structures still stand, the questions still linger, and somewhere between what we know and what we have forgotten, the mystery remains. Number 2. Across southern England, on an open plain where mist drifts through grasslands and winter skies darken early, enormous stones form one of humanity's most recognizable silhouettes, Stonehenge. Generations have stared at it, measured it, excavated it, modeled it, and yet the deeper researchers investigate, the stranger the monument becomes. The accepted timeline places major construction phases between approximately 3000 and 2000 BCE. Its builders transported massive stones across astonishing distances. Some originated in Wales, more than 100 miles away. That achievement alone commands attention. But transportation is only the beginning. The monument displays sophisticated astronomical alignments. Solstices interact with the structure in ways suggesting intentional observation of celestial cycles. The geometry is precise, the planning extensive, the execution monumental. No wheel-based transport system appears clearly associated with the earliest phases, no metal tools comparable to later civilizations, no obvious technological shortcuts. Yet the stones arrived, the monument emerged, and generations continued modifying it. The mystery deepens because Stonehenge appears connected to a broader ritual landscape. Burials, earthworks, processional routes. The site functioned as part of something larger, something integrated, something carefully designed. If that interpretation is correct, then prehistoric Britain possessed organizational capabilities exceeding simplistic portrayals of primitive tribal life. The consequences reach far beyond a ring of stones. They challenge assumptions regarding knowledge transmission, labor coordination, and astronomical understanding. Thousands of years later, Stonehenge still dominates the plain. Sunlight still passes through its alignments. The stones still frame the sky, and the full purpose of the monument remains just beyond reach. Number 3. Off the coast of Japan, beneath shifting currents and deep blue water, an immense stone formation rises from the seafloor. The Yonaguni Monument. Divers descending into the depths encounter terraces, platforms, sharp edges, apparent staircases, and geometric surfaces that seem almost architectural. The visual effect is startling. Nature rarely arranges itself this way, at least not according to intuition. The conventional explanation argues the monument is primarily natural. Geological processes, sandstone formations, fracturing patterns, erosion. A reasonable interpretation supported by many specialists, yet the debate refuses to disappear, because certain features appear strangely deliberate, angles repeat, surfaces align, large sections resemble engineered spaces. Some researchers argue human modification may have occurred. Others reject the possibility. The tension emerges from observation itself. What exactly are we looking at? A natural formation that resembles architecture? Architecture hidden within a natural formation? Or something occupying a category between the two? The implications are difficult to ignore because sea levels were dramatically lower during the last ice age. If portions of the structure were shaped by humans before submersion, then its origins could reach into periods far older than conventional coastal archaeology typically addresses. That possibility remains controversial, remains debated, remains unresolved, and that uncertainty is precisely what gives the site its power. The monument sits beneath the ocean, partially concealed by time itself. No inscription explains it, no builder signed it. The sea keeps its secrets well. Currents still sweep across the stone, fish still move through the shadows, and beneath the water, the mystery remains. Number 4. On the shores of Lake Titicaca, near the border of Peru and Bolivia, rests a structure whose precision continues to challenge expectations. The site is Tiwanaku. Its most controversial component is Puma Punku. The first impression is deceptive. Scattered stones, broken platforms, ruins. But closer examination changes everything. Certain blocks display extraordinary geometric features. Straight lines, sharp angles, precise cuts, complex recesses, repeated forms. Some observers compare them to machine-made components. The comparison is controversial, yet it persists because the visual similarity is difficult to ignore. Officially, the site belongs to a civilization flourishing long before European contact. Archaeologists have documented sophisticated cultural achievements throughout the region. The historical context is real. The engineering challenge is equally real. Some stones weigh over 100 tons. Others reveal intricate shaping requiring immense effort. No steel tools, no industrial machinery, no modern surveying equipment. Yet remarkable precision appears repeatedly. Researchers have proposed stone hammers, abrasion techniques, careful planning, and vast labor forces. Again, these explanations address important aspects of the puzzle, but they do not eliminate the psychological impact. Look at the cuts. Study the measurements. Observe the repetition. The stone behaves as though following a blueprint. The problem becomes larger when considering transportation. Quarries existed miles away. Materials crossed difficult terrain. Everything had to align. Everything had to fit. If that interpretation is correct, then ancient engineering capabilities may have reached levels still underappreciated today. The accepted timeline has no obvious place for widespread industrial technology, nor does the evidence require such a conclusion. Instead, the mystery occupies a more uncomfortable space, a place between certainty and possibility. The stones remain scattered across the plateau, the mountains remain beyond them, and the questions remain unfinished. Number 5. In the remote Pacific, on an isolated volcanic island surrounded by thousands of miles of ocean, enormous faces stare across the landscape. Easter Island, Rapa Nui, the Moai. More than 900 statues occupy the island, some standing upright, others fallen, others still attached to quarry walls as though frozen during creation. The official history credits the Rapa Nui people with carving and transporting these monuments between approximately 1250 and 1500 CE. The achievement is extraordinary even within that framework. Many statues weigh dozens of tons, some exceed 70. One unfinished example would have approached 200 tons. The challenge is obvious. How were they moved? The island possessed limited resources, no large draft animals, no advanced machinery, no metal technology capable of simplifying such operations. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated possible transport methods involving ropes and coordinated human movement. Yet possibility is not certainty, and scale matters. Moving one statue under controlled conditions differs significantly from creating an entire monumental landscape. The mystery deepens when considering social organization. Hundreds of statues, multiple generations, extensive quarrying, precise carving, long-distance transport. The operation required planning on a remarkable scale. Then, there is the emotional impact. Stand before a moai, and the stone seems alive. The faces watch. They endure. They feel less like sculptures than witnesses. Anthropomorphic stone, silent observers positioned across centuries. If the accepted interpretation is correct, the implications remain profound. Human societies operating under severe constraints achieved feats once considered impossible. If portions of that interpretation are incomplete, the consequences become even larger. Because somewhere between quarry and coastline lies a story not yet fully reconstructed. The statues still face the horizon, the ocean still surrounds them, and their silence remains intact. Number 6. Far beneath the surface of central Turkey lies a city that should not exist. Derinkuyu descends into darkness through narrow corridors, hidden rooms, ventilation shafts, storage chambers, workshops, wells, gathering spaces, and defensive passageways. It reaches multiple levels underground. At its greatest extent, it could have sheltered thousands of people. The accepted explanation suggests the city expanded over centuries, serving as refuge during periods of invasion and instability. Reasonable, practical, historical. Until the scale becomes impossible to ignore. Derinkuyu is not a cave. It is an engineered environment. Ventilation systems penetrate deep into the earth. Massive stone doors seal passageways. Complex networks connect living spaces across multiple levels. The deeper one travels, the stranger it becomes. Imagine excavating such a structure without modern drilling equipment. Imagine removing enormous quantities of rock. Imagine coordinating design across generations while maintaining structural integrity. Then consider the motivation. What threat required this? What danger justified moving entire communities underground? The defenseless trope appears repeatedly throughout human history. Walls, fortresses, strongholds. But Derinkuyu represents something more extreme. This was concealment. This was survival architecture. A place designed not merely to resist attack, but to disappear from it. The psychological implications are haunting. Civilizations build monuments to be seen. Derinkuyu was built to remain unseen. The consequences reach beyond engineering. They touch memory, fear, collective experience, because somewhere in the distant past, people invested extraordinary effort creating a subterranean world beneath their feet. The accepted timeline explains portions of the story, not all of it. The shafts still descend, the darkness still gathers below, and the city beneath the earth continues to guard whatever compelled its creation. Number 7. On the Mediterranean island of Malta, beneath sunlight that has illuminated these shores for thousands of years, stand structures older than Stonehenge and older than the pyramids of Egypt, the Gantija temples. Their name derives from legends claiming giants built them. Legends often emerge when ordinary explanations seem inadequate. Archaeology dates the temples to roughly 3600 BCE. That date alone is astonishing. These structures existed before many of the civilizations that dominate history textbooks. Massive limestone blocks form curved chambers, monumental entrances, and carefully organized layouts. Some stones exceed 50 tons. The conventional interpretation identifies them as religious complexes, ceremonial architecture, places of ritual, yet chronology introduces tension. The builders belong to a society with limited technological resources by later standards. No steel tools, no advanced machinery, no sophisticated transportation infrastructure. Still, they created some of humanity's earliest freestanding stone monuments. The geometry reveals planning, the scale reveals organization, the endurance reveals engineering competence. Then the mystery deepens. Many temples across Malta display unusual acoustic properties. Certain chambers amplify sound in ways that create powerful resonance effects. Researchers have recorded frequencies capable of producing remarkable sensory experiences within enclosed spaces. Coincidence? Intentional design? The evidence does not provide a final answer, but it introduces a possibility difficult to dismiss. Perhaps these builders understood aspects of architecture extending beyond simple construction. Perhaps space itself was part of the technology. The implications are difficult to ignore. When a culture creates monuments centuries before expected developmental milestones, historians must confront an uncomfortable reality. Human capability does not always follow neat chronological models. The stone chambers remain exposed to Mediterranean winds. The entrances remain open. The echoes remain trapped inside. The mystery remains. Deep within the wind-swept highlands of southeastern Turkey, where limestone ridges rise from the earth like the exposed bones of an ancient world, a circle of stone waits beneath the sky. At first glance, it appears almost simple. Massive pillars arranged in rings, weathered surfaces, silent ground. Yet appearances are deceptive here. This is Göbekli Tepe. Today, history books describe it as a ceremonial complex constructed roughly 11,600 years ago, at the dawn of the Neolithic era. Archaeologists uncovered towering T-shaped pillars carved with foxes, vultures, snakes, boars, and creatures that still seem to move beneath the stone when shadows lengthen across the site. The accepted narrative is remarkable enough. Hunter-gatherers, long before cities, agriculture, pottery, or metallurgy, gathered here and created one of humanity's earliest monumental constructions. But read that sentence again. Hunter-gatherers. Not kings, not empires, not urban societies. Human groups supposedly living at the edge of subsistence somehow quarried, transported, shaped, and arranged stones weighing up to 20 tons. The arithmetic is not subtle. For generations, archaeology assumed civilization emerged in a particular order. Agriculture first, permanent settlements second, monumental architecture afterward. Göbekli Tepe reverses the sequence. The structure appears before the systems believed necessary to create it. The pillars are decorated with extraordinary precision. The circular layouts reveal intentional geometry. Some researchers have argued that the arrangement contains spatial relationships far more sophisticated than expected from communities traditionally portrayed as nomadic foragers. The problem becomes larger when considering labor. Who organized hundreds of workers? Who planned the design? Who maintained the site across generations? And perhaps most unsettling of all, why was it deliberately buried? Not destroyed, buried. thousands of tons of material were used to entomb portions of the complex. The builders preserved it. They concealed it, as though future eyes were never meant to see it. If that interpretation is correct, the implications are difficult to ignore. The accepted timeline has no obvious place for a monument of this scale appearing before civilization supposedly learned how civilization itself worked. Today, the pillars still rise from the Turkish soil. The animals still emerge from the stone, and beneath